Hello fight fans and welcome back to a new video. Finally it is time for Fight Island and we are all very excited about the main event between the champion Kamaru Usman and the challenger Jorge Masvidal. Masvidal takes this fight in 6 days notice and believe me when I say this, Masvidal has nothing to lose here. I can imagine that he is getting the money he wanted because otherwise he would not have stepped in without a full camp against a dangerous opponent in Kamaru Usman. If Masvidal manages to get the win, his stocks will rise and he will probably be the biggest star in today's MMA world after Conor and Khabib. And if he loses, well, then Masvidal has the argument that he would like a rematch with a full camp, and I personally think that if the fight is close, then the UFC would book the rematch immediately. Usman on the other hand, has been preparing for several weeks, so his cardio and timing will for sure be there. But remember that Usman also has to change his way of approaching this fight, because Gilbert Burns and Jorge Masvidal are not the same fighters, and the game plan that Usman has been working on with Trevor Whitman for Burns will be thrown out the window, and either camp will have the time to specific train for each other. And with that being said, let's get right into the fight breakdown. When the fight starts, be sure to see both Masvidal and Usman meet in the center and try to press one another. I think that Usman will be the one controlling the center most of the times, but that will for sure be back and forth because both Masvidal and Usman have an aggressive striking style and they throw their strikes with bad intentions. Going back to the Usman-Colby fight, we can see that Usman rarely used any of his wrestling. He rarely level changed and he did not really shoot for takedowns because of the high level wrestling that Colby possesses. In this fight, that will be key for Usman. He has to be heavy on his level change and press Masvidal and use his boxing to get inside for takedowns. However, Usman has to be very careful and not chase the takedowns, because Masvidal has good takedown defense and is a very slick counterpuncher that will look for knees and uppercuts if Usman shoots for takedowns without any good setups. So Usman needs to be very patient and use his boxing and not force the takedowns, and when he gets the opportunity, then either shoot for the takedown or get to the clinch and start to work the takedown from there. I think that Usman will sooner or later get the takedown, and this is where his approach will be very different than if he would have fought Gilbert Burns. If Usman would get the takedown against Burns, he would need to be very careful because Burns don't mind being on his back and can threaten a lot with submissions and sweeps, so Usman would never be safe even in a top position. However, not taking anything away from Masvidal, he does not have the same grappling skills as Burns, so Usman is much safer in a top position and can focus more on holding Masvidal down and ground and pound him instead of worrying about sweeps and submissions. Because Masvidal will try to get back up and will not be interested in playing guard, and therefore will not threaten with the submissions, which will make it obviously a bit easier for Usman. Usman is although not a big submission artist himself, so I think he will try to hold a good position instead of looking for submissions, and then start to get to work using elbows and punches. And he will also try to wear on Masvidal, and Usman can also use the top position to rest for a few seconds, but has to keep himself busy because I'm sure that Masvidal will get back up again. Usman has to be very smart because if he uses a lot of energy trying to get the takedowns and then Masvidal pops right back up, then eventually Usman will start to gas out and his takedowns will become much easier to defend against. When speaking about Jorge Masvidal and his resurrection, we can clearly see a lot of maturity on his behalf. He fights much smarter now and picks his shots more than going in there and brawl. But make no mistake, Masvidal can brawl and he has a very good chin, and that's one of the reasons why Masvidal is such a likable fighter. He will fight smart and technical, but will not back away from an all-out brawl. And Usman should not try to brawl with Masvidal because Jorge Masvidal has the knockout power on his side. I think we can all agree that Masvidal has the slight advantage in the stand-up. He has more tools than Usman and has world-class boxing that is in my opinion very underrated. People talk about how good of a boxer Nate Diaz is, which he obviously is, but Masvidal went in and totally picked Nate apart in their fight. What I love the most in the striking arsenal of game-bred Masvidal is his body kick, and be sure to see that kick many times come fight night. However, Masvidal has to be very careful with the kicks so Usman doesn't catch them and take him down. Masvidal has to do everything in his power to keep the fight standing, and when Usman shoots for that takedown, he has to make Usman burn a lot of energy trying to get the takedowns. And if Usman gets the fight to the ground, then Masvidal has to get right back up and not let Usman control the position. Masvidal will for sure use his longer strikes like the jab, cross, tip to the body, low kick and body kick to keep a good fighting distance. And if Usman gets to the clinch, be sure to see a lot of knees and elbows from Masvidal before he will break from the clinch and get back to the striking. Kamaru Usman is obviously a good wrestler, but like most of today's MMA wrestlers, Usman depends heavily on defense to get the takedowns. He likes to get to the body lock and press his opponents to the fence and from there look for takedowns, and he does not really shoot for a lot of takedowns from the center. So we will see a constant battle where Usman will try to press Masvidal to the fence, and Masvidal will try to use lateral movements to keep his back off the fence, because Masvidal is much safer in the center than against the fence. This is a fight I have been waiting for since Jorge Masvidal beat Ben Askren, and I wish that Masvidal would have had a full training camp, but digging into the world of social media, we can see that he has been helping a lot of his teammates in ATT getting ready for their fights, so I think that he is in a good shape. However, if the fights involves a lot of wrestling and scrambles, which I think it will, we might see Masvidal slow down in the championship rounds, and the fact that he takes this fight in 6 days notice is the reason why I lean towards Kamaru Usman to win this fight. I hope you guys enjoyed this breakdown, and feel free to comment in the section below who you think will win and why. Smash the like button and subscribe, and until next time.